In these days of downsized engines, electrified powertrains and a general condemnation of anything that's not fuel efficient, you'd think a 12-cylinder Super GT would have been killed off long ago. But, thank the good Lord, there's still Aston Martin and Bentley. Meet the fabulous V12-engined Aston Martin DB11 AMR and the W12 Bentley Continental GT. Proof that such thunderously powerful super grand tourers still exist. But which one is best?
So, the Aston Martin DB11 AMR. And what's new? Well, underneath the skin, this car's got some chassis tweaks. A lot of the learning from the DB11 V8 has been carried over here, but also this car's got an engine upgrade. It uses the 5.2 litre twin turbo V12. And power is now up to 630 bhp. Aston claims that's good enough for 0 to 62 in 3.7 seconds, and top speed is now at 208 miles an hour. And when you drive this thing, you can really believe it because the performance is incredible. I mean, just listen to that. You get the full effect of that V12 when you rev it out, but you don't need to because those turbos give it so much torque, so low down, that there's loads of flexibility, and that lets you exploit the next best thing about the DB11 AMR. The chassis is really nice, it really is good. The steering is a beautiful weight and just the right speed for the length of the wheelbase, the weight of the car. There's a good amount of grip. It's not a track car by any means, but there's really enough to entertain you here. And then with that torque and the lovely connection you get with the throttle pedal to the engine, it just lets you exploit that balance beautifully. All the while you've got this soundtrack as well. In the mid-range, you don't really know it's turbocharged unless you really ask for a lot of performance in quite a tall gear. But the way Aston's managed to map the engine and replicate that big lunged, naturally aspirated feel is really wonderful. And when you come to a corner, it means you can indulge in some ridiculous behaviour. This is what a proper 2+2 12-cylinder British GT should be like.
Don't be so hasty though, Sean, because if you want a 12-cylinder 2+2 coupe with a British badge on its nose, there is another way. Meet the brand new Bentley Continental GT. I know what you're thinking. Bentley Continental GTs are bought by all the wrong types of people. The types of people who are more keen on getting to their drugs test very quickly, as opposed to absolutely flying through continental Europe to get to the French Riviera. But this is the new Continental GT. And I really do think the tide might change with this car because, I mean, just look at it. I wasn't too keen on it when I first saw it at the motor show, but now, in the flesh, this thing is a staggeringly good looking car. There's a hint of sort of 1930s Art Deco-ness about it from the outside. There's a hint of sort of blower Bentley, what with the big grille and the big flowing wings and the way it tapers off at the back. It's such a good looking car. And step inside in this particular one with its piano black wood, and this is proper piano black wood, not shiny black plastic, but it's so tasteful and elegant. I almost think that the typical old style Bentley driver will like this car. That is until when you press the screen, because when it does its little dance, you realise that this car actually is designed for the modern tart. And I mean that in a nice way, but there's no way will the aristocracy be buying this car. Now, as this is the new Continental GT, you can forget the fact that this is based on a VW Phaeton. The first Continental GT was, and the second car, whilst it may have looked a bit different, it still used the Phaeton's underpinnings. This time round, it's based on an all-new platform. It's co-developed with Porsche. Porsche have used it for the Panamera, Bentley have used it for this car, and it's so much more agile than the old one. You really can fling this thing into corners, and it just rewards you so much more than the old car. Although, I would not say this to Sean's face, but the DB11 has got this thing licked in the corners. The DB11 feels so much more crisp, so much lighter than this car. But one thing this car has got on its side is power. Now it may have just slightly less power than the Aston, but Jesus, my God, does this thing shift. Just touch the throttle and you're absolutely flying towards the horizon. It's absolutely staggering. This new 6-litre W12 engine has over 900 Nm of torque, 626 brake horsepower, and 0 to 60 comes up in just around 3.5 seconds. It is absolutely extraordinary. You just can't help but think a Bentley should not go this fast, but it does. But I do feel as though Sean and I are not going to be able to work out which 12-cylinder coupe is best. So there's only one way to decide this, and that's with a good old-fashioned drag race.
So it's no surprise that Batch wanted to settle this with a drag race in his 4-wheel drive car with launch control. The Aston, it's rear-wheel drive, and its 8-speed gearbox doesn't have launch control because it's a conventional automatic. So all I can do is put the ESC into track mode, hopefully allow a little bit of slip off the line, and then see how we go.
Right, and actually I should probably switch off radio 4. Right, I feel a little bit bad because I know that I'm probably going to beat that Aston Martin because I've not only got 4-wheel drive, but I've got launch control as well. So let's give this a bash, shall we? So let's give the guy a thumbs up. And here we go. Engage launch control, and away we go. And the Aston got a pretty good start, actually. Now I've flown away. Yeah, that was quite a convincing victory, actually. Although that Aston Martin pulled away pretty quickly, didn't it? Much faster than I thought it was going to. I thought this was going to walk all over the Aston Martin, but it sort of did in the end, but not initially. This one's best then.
Overall, the Bentley did win the drag race, but it was always going to. In the real world, picking between the two is a little harder. The AMR upgrades make the V12 DB11 what it should have been originally. Sharper, more engaging, and a proper hairy-chested GT car. But picking between these two comes down to your priorities. If you want the last word in luxury, then choose the Bentley. Or go for the Aston if you value a sporting drive with a cool image. But ultimately, these are both great cars, and you should enjoy them before they're killed off.